All right, we're gonna go in here.
Even as I'm stepping through these doors, I don't fully grasp what we're about to walk into. Suddenly, you're hit with the intense gaze of dozens locking onto you. These men described as the worst of the worst, tattooed with reminders of El Salvador's dark past. It's tense and uncomfortable. But here, officials say comfort isn't meant to exist.
There's no mattresses, there's no sheets. You've got a toilet over here for them to go to the bathroom. You've got this basin here that they use to bathe themselves. And then you can see there's a barrel of water that they can drink from.
This is a rare look inside El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, known as CECOT.
And he says there's always somebody standing here in front of the cells. And then if you look up, there's another corridor with more security personnel. Luz 24 horas. 24/7 light.
The prison sits like an isolated fortress, nestled in mountainous terrain, about an hour-and-a-half drive from the capital. Even with government officials on board with us, we're stopped a mile out.
Oh, okay. He's gonna inspect bags now too. Okay, we're clear to get back in.
Only to hit another checkpoint. Approaching the main gate, our cell signals vanish.
They want to do a full search on us before we enter.
CECOT's director, Belarmino Garcia, greets us and takes us through a rigorous security check.
Wedding ring. So this is like airport security on steroids. Anything that we're carrying with us. Móvil aquí, teléfono. Okay, anything we're carrying with us has to go there. And then there's a body scan that continues on the other side. Okay. Shoes off. This one back on. Gracias.
Once cleared, we toured the vast campus, starting with the armory.
He says they have to constantly remind themselves that they're dealing with essentially the worst of the worst, and for that reason, they need to be ready for whatever risks they might face. It's been equated to 7 football stadiums. It's almost multiple prisons within the prison. You can see off to the distance, there's 3 different rings as they describe. The far end, you have one that's 9 meters high of concrete, and then above that, 3 meters of electrified fencing.
15,000 volts.
15,000 volts.
More than 1,000 security personnel, guards, police, and military are stationed on site. Inmates are assigned to one of 8 sectors.
The director tells me the inmates, once they're inside one of these sectors, they never leave. Everything is done within, including doctors, as well as legal visits or court hearings.
Each sector holds more than 24 large cells.
Roughly 80 inmates per cell, but it can fluctuate.
Most bear the markings of the gangs that held this nation hostage for decades, committing brutal acts of violence.
You gotta kill people, you gotta rob, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive.
You have to do those things.
Yeah, you gotta do that.
And if you didn't do those things, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't be a gangbanger.
We meet 41-year-old Marvin Vasquez, shackled and heavily guarded.
What gang were you part of?
MS-13.
And do you have any gang affiliations?
Yeah, I'm tattooed up.
What is this?
Crazy criminals. Say crazy criminals. Yeah, I made this clique in 2011.
You made the clique?
Yeah.
You were a gang leader?
Yeah.
What is it like to live here?
It's probably not a hotel 5-star, but they give you the 3 times the food. They give you some programs. You go to do exercise. Some church religion programs too.
But that's limited to just 30 minutes a day. The other 23 and a half hours, they're kept inside and locked up.
For inmates who get violent with other prisoners or guards,
we're going to close the door. I just want to get a sense of, wow.
Solitary confinement awaits.
The only light you get is through this hole. And they can be in here for 15 days, potentially. All right, I'm ready to get out.
Critics point specifically to the prison's strict control and isolation of inmates, calling it a violation of human rights.
The director brought up that a lot of folks will raise concerns from a human rights perspective and an abuse of human rights, that he's calm hearing that because he sees it day to day, the process they go through to maintain, as he sees it, proper punishment.
While you're cut off from society here, whispers of life on the outside make their way in.
I've heard about it, that it's a new El Salvador, it looks different.
That new El Salvador has emerged under President Nayib Bukele, who took office in 2019 and declared a controversial state of emergency more than 2 years ago. It sparked an aggressive crackdown on crime. We see that firsthand as some 2,500 police and soldiers deploy into one neighborhood.
He's going to go on through the night for however long it takes for them to root out any suspected criminal elements.
Late last week, as the U.S. State Department lowered its travel advisory for El Salvador, citing a significant reduction in crime, it also warned that Bukele's emergency measures allow authorities to arrest anyone suspected of gang activity and suspends constitutional rights.
Hola, Juan Carlos, yo soy David.
Juan Carlos tells me he was wrongfully held for 5 months at a lower security prison earlier this year. He says the poor conditions led to an infection in his leg.
He said he was lumped in and assumed to be part of a gang, and he said in part because of how he looked. He had long hair, he said he had a long beard, and he says he has tattoos, but he points out that for him these are just artistic expressions. They have nothing to do with being part of a gang.
The Bukele administration has acknowledged that innocent people have been swept up in the crackdown, and they say more than 7,000 have already been released. They see it as collateral damage, and Juan Carlos, while frustrated with the tactics, believes under Bukele his country is safer.
Is this headquarters for you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Bukele's security minister targets gangs with an academic-like approach.
I heard you have a book. Is it true?
Yeah.
And this is a book that has the markings of gang members.
All the marks.
The minister compiling his findings from his nearly 30 years in law enforcement to help interpret gang symbols.
Wow, these 3 dots that says signify 3 things to the gang members, that they have 3 destinations essentially: jail, hospital, or cemetery.
From his office, he monitors crime reports in real time and keeps tabs on his officers in the field.
You can say, if there's a particular officer that's in an area that's in question, why were you there so long? What were you doing?
Of course.
And you can hold them accountable.
Yes.
He even says the program they've built has started to incorporate AI, which can tell them
Where you have to put your police officer.
and yet most we meet seem unfazed by the added show of force.
¿Te sientes seguro? I asked him, I said, how do you feel with all these soldiers? I mean, there's a couple of dozen just even right outside his door. And he said, no, I feel safe.
I sat next to Jorge Moran on my flight in. His family fled El Salvador's civil war when he was 3.
Just coming to the airport, you feel the sense of like safety,
Do you feel it in the U.S.?
No.
You don't?
No.
And you live in Indiana?
Yes, sir.
Jorge fully supports President Bukele, as do most arriving passengers, it seems.
And folks are actually stopping to get their pictures taken between President Bukele and the First Lady.
Under Bukele's state of emergency, law enforcement have arrested more than 81,000 people. El Salvador now has one of the world's highest incarceration rates. Most end up in facilities like these, where they can work to reduce their sentences. The most hardened criminals, though, brought to CECOT, where inside, a life sentence awaits.
We did bad things, we pay it the rough way, doing time.
And yet for many on the outside, the prison, now a symbol of newfound freedom, the new El Salvador, as they see it.